We'll be in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry guys. We're just-
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone. You could go for. You say get one. Everyone. The original chair.
No, bro.
Wow. I found out from listening to some other folks, so. We're kind of done here. Put in it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm do it before and after. So. Like yawning. Right, why don't we look over it? Yeah, that's what. Thank God. Is it not this? Ethics staff. It was very Oh, it's so. The. I'm like, flowers. Oh, yeah. Also, I'm so scared. Thing out.
Well, I.
Like, my mind today. Her head. Why is it? Like. Oh, yeah. She's. Yeah. And then we're going to complain. It's like my mom. Brian, did you hear about sunset? And then you guys could. Oh, yeah, yeah. Like. That day. Okay, that was such a nightmare. Okay. I don't. Sorry. My baby.
Testing, testing.
Okay.
I added it. Okay,
I forgot we made it.
yeah, I have access to it, but Ibrahim should be showing up. You might have to direct.
Yeah, do we look at she looked direct?
I don't know which folder
This
that
one,
is
right?
because I don't have access to that.
Yeah, so go to yours.
I don't have access.
Wait, I think.
Okay, then you tell me, but
Is it this one?
it might be better if you have access.
One?
Okay, so you know what? He'll be screen share.
There you
like the list.
I'm
of
a-
documents.
Okay.
You can probably choose this one. So like this one's pretty section.
Yeah,
Yeah, then
Wait,
yeah,
let me
but then
scroll
there's
from
the general complaint, and then there's the one that you say. Okay.
Wait, basically what I did yesterday.
Yeah, actually, when I'm gonna have the committee introduce yourselves, and then I'm gonna say, and we have the EIC. You two introduce yourselves really quick, and then we'll start. Yeah. I'm she or.
Sorry, that was what? I
Yeah, I know. It's like you guys are just on the same page.
No, I'm not. I'll just keep going.
I like your thing has a second. Look at your comment.
Yeah, I love, right? It's
Yeah,
so helpful. It's
yeah.
so helpful.
So right.
Ibrahim,
Anyone wants
can you ask, can people on Zoom hear?
Stop. You got this. We should think it's you.
Yeah.
Fucking boss. On this.
Kidding.
Brendan.
Yeah. Yeah.
They haven't typed. They haven't typed. I asked in the chat.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Let me know. Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, April 30th. Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. I know at this late hour, but you should all be here for the election complaints hearing. If you're not, you might want to leave. I don't know. It's up to you. Um, I'm just going to introduce the committee and everyone involved really quick. So I'm Aditi Mangla. I'll be chairing the hearing today, and then we'll start down there.
Yeah, my name is R. Piers Mandy. I'm the Rule 9 licensed legal intern that will be overseeing everything.
My name is Dylan Bianchi. I am an at-large member.
I'm Julia Tanner. I'm the Student Senate Liaison.
I'm Abby Sengendo. I'm Secretary of Recommendations.
And I'm Brian, also an at-large member.
And then really quick, if our Elections Administration Committee just wants to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi, my name is Rachel. I'm the Operations Co-Chair.
Hi, I'm Francisco. I'm the Outreach Co-Chair.
Okay, awesome. I'm just gonna go through the rules of the hearing really quick for everyone here. You should have also all received the email with this information, but I'm just gonna go through it really quickly. So if the complainant is not here, they can have their campaign manager or someone of their choosing submit read their written statement, or they could have sent it to me. That's already done. And then if anyone is on Zoom and they plan on presenting, please let Ibrahim know through the chat that they will be presenting soon, preferably like if you know your complaint is coming up, let him know and he can make you a panelist, because you can't just speak like that. Every party has the opportunity to call and examine any witnesses of their choosing. During complaints, we request that the gallery does not speak. Only complainants, defendants, witnesses, and members should speak. Please be prepared with all of your evidence and your testimony. We have a lot of complaints and we only have 4 hours here. So because of time constraints, we really want to be quick and try to stay to the point. At every hour, we will try to take a 5-minute break because, again, it will be a lot. So if you do need to slip out during the hearing, please do so quietly. And then right now I will go through the procedure of each complaint really quickly. So we will call up the complaint and then roll call will be taken. We will read the complaint out loud. The parties involved can introduce themselves to the committee. We'll ask if you have any procedural questions, let us know. We're not going to ask for every single complaint because that's going to be a lot. The complainant, so the person who filed the complaint, has the opportunity to make an opening statement, and then the respondent has an opportunity to make an opening statement. If the respondent chooses to, they can reserve their opening statement for later, but the complainant has to make it right away. Then the complainant gets to call any witnesses they have. Then the respondent gets to call any witnesses they have. And then the complainant gets to make a closing statement followed by the respondent. And yes, do you have any questions?
Is there a time limit to the?
We don't really have a time limit, but just like be reasonable. Try to keep it short. we have a number, and then also it's like just a lot for everyone. So yeah, just use your judgment for that. And then this table will be the complainant. So what is my right? I think, or what is my right? Your guys' left. That's the complainant table. This is the respondent table. They also have signs on them, so that should be pretty clear. You guys will have to share mics. Just figure that out amongst yourselves. And then just to clarify, I didn't put this in my email, but I want to make sure that everyone knows we will not be making judgments right now. You will all find out about the judgment and what is your assigned penalty afterwards, probably in a few days, and we will send out an email with all of that. But none of that will be decided right now. So we'll hear everything, and then you'll be done, and then we'll go on to the next one. Yeah, any questions before we start? Okay, awesome. We're gonna start with our very first complaint now, and that is 31025 Dureha versus Alice Zuborovsky, Brandon Palin, and Doug Maui Tishome. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name.
That's okay, but it's actually misspelled too.
Oh,
Could that be
sorry.
corrected? Thank you.
Okay, do we have, so I'm gonna take roll call really quick. Do we have right here? Yes. And then Alice, Brendan,
Here.
and then do we have Doug Maui? Not here? Okay, that's fine. Okay, we're gonna have the complainant make their opening statement first.
Basically, the EPP just states that they have to file their financial forms correctly. What they did was that they just put their name in it, their email, their number, and signed it with no values on it. And ESC determined it was incomplete. But they were given 24 hours to rectify that, and they did. So I think that was done.
Okay, awesome. Anything else from you guys? Do the respondents want to say anything? Sounds like it's already done.
In 24 hours.
Okay, awesome. Any witnesses? Any additional information? Any closing statements?
They just did the thank you. That's right.
Okay, any closing statements from the respondents? No? Okay, awesome. That one is done. We're done with complaint number 1. That was a great start. Okay, awesome. Now we will have complaint number 2. So this is 4/1/2025, Yee versus Peyton Sachs and Nebiat Marcos. Okay, do we have Yee here? And then do we have Peyton here?
Yep.
Nebiat? Okay, perfect. And if the complainant wants to make their opening statement?
So I think this is like a pretty simple complaint. The 2 candidates, Nabiat and Peyton, I've submitted a complaint against failed to RSVP for the Living Communities Forum. This was a forum that was held in conjunction with the EAC. And according to the EPP section 6F, this is a violation since they didn't let me or any of the 2 EPP co-chairs know that they weren't coming and they weren't excused by a chair.
Yeah, opening statement from our respondents.
Do we each get to make one?
Sure.
Yeah, I want to apologize, 1, for not submitting an RSVP. But 2, I do want to mention that this forum itself was hosted during board. That doesn't excuse the lack of RSVP on my end, so I take full accountability for that. Just as a public elected official, like what we're all running for was the board of directors. Those meetings are standard and have been standard for years at 5:30 to 7:30. As an elected board member, if you don't attend, it does affect voting seats and quorum, which then affects what can be passed. So that's where I was, and that's why I couldn't be there. Again, it doesn't excuse that there wasn't an RSVP. However, again, if the event is required, I do think that RSVPs should not have like a closing date, because then it becomes an access barrier as a candidate when you're required to go to these events. I do think that if you can't go, you should RSVP no. Again, take full accountability for that. But yeah, I just think that that's what happened. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'd like to start off apologizing as well. I think that an RSVP definitely would have been helpful. Just I understand like event hosting, like indicating who's going to be there, who's not going to be there. And I agree that indicating no would be helpful, but I think that indicating that you would be present is a little bit seems a little bit unnecessary when we are expected to be there, otherwise subject to violation. After realizing I had missed the deadline, I did reach out to Autumn and I sent in an email, and which I can share, and I did say that I'm able to be present at this time. The time that the RSVP form was open was during very close to finals week, and I had a really busy quarter, and I was also traveling at the time, so it just got lost in my email, and I ended up seeing it the day after RSVPs had closed. So I emailed Autumn the next day, and I was just saying, hey, like, I'm able to be there at the forum. I would love to speak, and if not, I understand. And she responded saying that it would be unfair to other candidates if she allowed me to speak, but my suggestion was that she opened it for all candidates. And yeah, I was still at the forum, I just wasn't able to speak.
Okay, thank you. And then questions. Okay. Do you have any witnesses? No? Okay. Do you have any witnesses or additional evidence? Okay.
Just the email, but
Okay, if you want, you can forward that to us later. Okay. Yeah.
same email I got the list of complaints in.
Yeah. And then did you have something on that?
Yeah. Could I, or should I just? Okay. Peyton, did you clarify, was there any communication between you and Autumn when you realized that either you missed the RSVP or weren't able to attend the forum?
Which is my own fault.
Yeah. No, thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah.
And then do we have any closing statements from the complainant?
Yeah, I think it's just important for us to like, so we can adequately plan for them, because we need to figure out how much time to give to candidates and like whether we can end on time. I do want to add that Nandana, who's also a voting board member, was also present, so I wasn't sure if board members were going to come or not. There was a no option on the RSVP form, which is how I would have been able to tell how many candidates were going to be. And the RSVP was open for 2 weeks, and I sent 2 emails and stated that candidates who didn't RSVP would be in violation.
Yeah, thank you. Closing statement from the respondents.
Again, I just want to take accountability and apologize for not RSVPing. Again, if a forum could not be during board when there are board members running for election, that would be awesome. But that's kind of all I have to say, is I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll be moving on to the next complaint now. Thank you. Okay. We will be hearing complaint number 3 now. 42525 Jacob Gannon versus Nandana, JD, Vernon Lumpkin, Lydia Burhanu, Peyton Sachs, Adriana Scott, Will Banks, and Remy Martin. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna do roll call. I know we don't have enough seats. Unfortunately, you will just have to crowd around the table. I'm so sorry. We can't, that was the way the room was set up. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna do roll call. Jacob.
Here.
Perfect. Nandana Jaydeep. Here. Vernon Lumpkin. Lydia Burhanu. Peyton Sachs. And Adriana Scott. And Will Banks is not here. He let me know. And Remy Martin. Do we have? Okay, that's fine. We'll have the opening statement from our complainant.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jacob Gannon. I am the Vice Speaker for the ACU Student Senate, and my complaint is about EPP Article 1, Section 6 campaigning, which I indicated in the form. Essentially, an RSVP form for the forum, which was the GPSS ASUW Joint Senate Forum, was circulated in advance of the forum with some information about the event, in addition to the time that the RSVP form would be closed. An initial email was sent on April 8th at 12:12 a.m. A reminder email was sent then 3 days later at 6:34 p.m. on April 11th. And that also indicated that they should review the information from the first email, as well as a reminder that the event will be mandatory and that the RSVP form should be completed in advance. And then a email was sent on I can't find what date right now, but an additional email was sent, I think, 2 days before, that contained the questions for the forum, in addition to final reminder that it was mandatory.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And if you guys want to make any opening statements, you all have to make one, but it's up to you.
Only thing I want to say is thank you to Jacob for such clear communication. Jacob is always a wonderful communicator. And again, this is something that just flubbed on my end. So I take accountability and I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just also, I think we can speak for the both of us. So there was a lot of RSVP forms. There were a lot of forms this year. So this was just one of those things. I personally assumed that if you didn't RSVP, no, you could still show up. So we were physically present at that forum. But I understand that it's to make sure that the organizers have enough time to see who's speaking. So we do take accountability and we understand why that made things difficult and we're sorry.
Any other opening statements? No?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, basically the same thing for me. You know how like when you press a link, it turns purple, like you already pressed the link. So that happened to me, and I genuinely thought I had RSVP'd, and like Nandana and Audrey, I was in attendance. I just didn't RSVP, so I wasn't able to speak. But yeah.
Thank you for letting us know. Does the complainant have any additional evidence or witnesses they want to present?
Not additional evidence. I guess I recognize that it's hard, especially with such a tight time period with a lot of events going on. But totally understand. But I would agree that it was definitely intended to ensure that myself and the rest of the steering committee and GPSS had time to modify the time length for each question, make sure the event ran smoothly, and that we were prepared in advance to know how many people would be using the stage so we could plan accordingly. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Any additional evidence or witnesses? Okay, do you guys also want to make your closing statement right now, since I think Jacob already made his? Just my bad. Our bad.
Sorry, no.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. We'll be moving on to the next complaint now. Thank you. We'll be doing complaint number 4 now. 4/28/2025, DeReha versus Brandon Palin and Grace Clark. I am aware of Grace's situation right now. She emailed me. I will be reading her statement aloud after you, if you want to make an opening statement. So first we'll let, yeah. Okay. So does the complainant want to make their opening statement now?
Yeah, I have to make them.
A lot of people didn't.
Are they on this thing?
It states in the EPP, section 8, C.
Are they?
They have to, the receipts need to be submitted.
Their turn comes?
We did a lot of financial forms that didn't have receipts, so that's why just the complaint was done. They did send it to me back after the fact, so we do appreciate.
Okay, thank you. And then Brandon, do you want to make an opening statement?
Yeah, it's just it's my bad. I didn't know that we had to send receipts, which is totally on my part. And I also sent a new revised the link to the original form. The final form wasn't working for me, so I had to email my form to Ria. And also, I emailed Hoop last night about a revised form because my number dyslexia got the best of me when I first filled out the financial form, and I put in wrong numbers. But I sent in a revised one with pictures of receipts and just the revised form, which could be correct now.
Yeah, I believe that we have that in our folder. And now I will read out Grace's opening statement. Wait, sorry guys, I have to zoom in. Okay. First, I want to start by apologizing for my unexpected absence. Navigating flight delays and cancellations is the week. In light of this complaint, I want to give context as to my location and ability to access the receipts to properly complete the form. In the week leading up to the form deadline, I was simultaneously campaigning and preparing to represent UW at an international collegiate a cappella competition in New York, which kept me extremely occupied on top of my academic commitments. When I found out the election results, instead of being with all the other candidates in the hub, I was on a plane to New York City. And once I landed, I was immediately thrown into some mandatory commitments with my a cappella. Despite immediate commitments, I wanted to meet the deadline of this form. It only required me to submit one receipt, and once I looked into my bank account to find the exact payment I made for the other items, I wasn't able to see my transactions as I had recently changed my bank account password to reconnect it to my Venmo account, where I also made some of my campaign payments. Being so stressed for time with my a cappella group commitments kept me from being able to slow down and email someone more directly about the issues I was having accessing my bank account. I did estimate the amount I spent on the items I wasn't able to find the receipts for, so while the amounts are not 100% accurate, I was more concerned in the moment about at least just submitting the form. I understand I had a lapse in judgment, but it was merely because of the commitment I made to my a cappella group to be present and focus on our competition. I have sent an updated form to Judicial, and below are the additional receipts that clarify my campaign spending, which was well under my budget of $110. I apologize again for my absence and for the lack of access I had in viewing my bank account, but I believe the incorrect filing of this form is more to do with my inability to balance commitments and less about intentionally not reporting my campaign financing. Transparently reporting is something I take seriously, but the lack of access to my bank information and the time to fill out the form hindered my ability to do so, which I apologize for as well. Thank you for reading this statement and understanding my intentions. Okay, the like payment forms are also below this. I can send these to you later if you want. Yeah, I have it. Oh, okay, awesome. Do you guys have any additional witnesses or evidence you want to submit? No. Okay. Anything?
So for yours, were you able to correct your receipts within 24 hours of the deadline, which was Friday, April 25th?
I was not, no. When I got the email about I didn't send in receipts, I looked at the last one I sent to make sure everything was good, but I mixed up some numbers when I sent in a revised form last night.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Okay, anything additional?
I think it'd be
Okay, any closing statement?
I just want to say that I do agree EAC was much harsher this year about receipts because there are a lot of complaints about that. But during the election, it was to me that it was a candidate or a group of candidates that were using goodie bags that may not be $1 or less. So that's why I just made it a point that I just checked that everything is accounted for and everything that they used was below $1. So yeah, I just want to apologize if it's a lot of inconvenience to Judicial and a lot of candidates. And I know that it's not your intent. And there was a lot of issues with the form, but I just had to do it because it's in the yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Closing statement from Brandy.
that's completely understandable. Yeah, I literally just thought we'd have to submit the form, but yes, I should read the EPP more carefully from now on. But yeah, that's totally my bad. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone. That was complaint number 4. We'll be moving on now. Thank you. Okay, we will be hearing complaint number 5, 4/28/2025, Dereja versus Kate Lawson and Peyton Sachs.
Back again.
Okay. Really quick roll call. We have do we have Kate Lawson?
Hi, yes.
And then do we have Peyton?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Okay, we will have the complainant start with their opening statement.
Yes, so both Peyton and Kate emailed me their financial forms, which I really appreciate since they're having difficulties with the form itself. I just didn't find receipts of the financial form, and I know that Peyton, and they mentioned that their intent was there. I don't think that just translated into the PDF itself. So I do appreciate like the honesty and transparency. And again, like we do agree that ESC was much harsher on receipts this year, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was accounted for and nothing that could have been a possible violation was there. So I do understand that this was something that they just forgot, and I completely they rectified it. They both sent me that. And I think Kate did file, she did file it, but I checked with SAO. There was no filing for Kate in the system. So I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, you can speak for that.
Yeah, okay. Would the respondents like to make their opening statements?
So I did attempt to file on before the deadline on Husky Link. On Sunday, I went to verify my filing and I couldn't find it. I'm not entirely sure if that was my bad, I forgot to submit, or if the website, I know other folks had been having trouble with the website, so there was potential for the website to be down. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I emailed Rhea just letting her know of the situation and attaching my form, which I believed was a full PDF of all of the information, and just asking for clarification on whether or not my form would be counted through Husky Link or whether or not my form would be counted through my email. Then I noticed that a violation had been filed against me for my form not including receipts. So I responded to that email, sent Rhea my receipts as well. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened with my form. If that was my bad, I do sincerely apologize, but all of the information should be in the hands of the EAC now.
Thank you.
Same here. All my info is in the hands of the EAC. My Husky Link also wasn't working, so I don't know if that's like a revision to the website or that needs to change because it's that most of us have, I think a lot of us experienced that, but yeah, what Ria said, so that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional evidence or witnesses you want to bring up? Respondents, anything, closing statement?
Yeah, they did their job. If there was issues, I agree with that. And I'm really sorry to all the people that we're gonna discuss receipts again. That was not my intention, but it had to be done. But everyone kind of sent me their things back, so I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, we're done with complaint number 5. We will be hearing complaint number 6 now. 4/28/2025, Dereja versus Alice Dubrowski.
I'm sorry for this.
It's okay. Okay, and we have Ria here. We have Alice here. Perfect. If the complainant wants to make their opening statement.
Yeah, they did most of the job correctly. Couldn't find one receipt. Again, I was being very stringent about that. I do agree just to make sure that everything was accounted for. But that doesn't mean that they didn't do their job correctly. It may just have been misplaced. It was after campaign season. There's a lot of issues with the whole thing, so I do understand. And they did I'm not sure if you sent that to me, but I'm sure you did. So that's it. Like that's kind of a complaint. I apologize for this complaint again. So yeah, we both apologize for making up.
And then do you want to make your opening statement?
Yeah, I actually do have to say that Ria does not have that receipt, and I take full accountability for that. This one receipt that I didn't submit was because I used UW printing services to print sheets of little logos for the ticket that I was affiliated with to make pins that I also used from the that I also did at UW. And I didn't know how to access the printing receipts. I went into my print center on my UW, couldn't figure it out. And I'm not using my current position in ASUW to make an excuse, only to offer an explanation. I am the director of SARVA, the Sexual Assault and Violence Activist Administration, and it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we had 2 huge events this past week. And I looked through the EPP and I was like, you know what? I love serving my community. I will just take the community service for not knowing how to find this printing receipt. So I take full accountability for that. I did not submit that receipt and I accept the community service for it.
Okay. Any other witnesses or evidence on the site? Okay. Anything else from you? Do you want to try? Okay. Closing statement.
I just appreciate the accountability. Yeah, none of us want to be here for this, so I'm really sorry, but I really appreciate that.
Find it. How to find it, I'll give it to you.
Okay, awesome. Anything else you want to closing statement? Okay, perfect. I think we're done with that one. Thank you guys. So we're done with complaint number 6. We'll be going to complaint number 7 now, which is 4/28/2025, Dereja versus Will Banks. I do believe that Will Banks said that he can't come and he did not submit a statement to me. Does anybody here have a statement from Will Banks? You could just read out the complaint and then we'll move on.
I'm Francisco. I'm gonna speak on behalf of Ria. So essentially, has never informed EAC that he was not going to attend the Living Communities, the Student Policy, the DIMB, or the Joint Senate's Forum, and so this would be considered like 4 counts of a minor violations within this complaint. So that's just pretty much it.
I have a question. I believe he dropped out, right, of the rate, or
We did not receive any.
that's what I was gonna ask. Okay, so you never received any withdrawal from candidacy paperwork?
No, not from him. No.
Okay. I mean, I don't have any other question then. Anything you guys want to add? You guys have every side of it right now.
Clear. He just didn't show up or tell us that he
Yeah.
was not going to show up.
We haven't heard from him at all.
Okay, yeah, no, all I know is that he wasn't here. Okay, we will go through that complaint. Complaint number 7 is done. We will be going to complaint number 8 now. 4/19/2025, Dojenia versus Dagmawi Tashome. Is Dagmawi here? Any written statement? No? Okay, we'll just do the same thing right now. You can read it out loud.
Hi, it's Francisco again. So there was a sticker from his campaign like saying Dagmari to show me, and you guys have all the photos and stuff. And I notified him on Saturday, April 19th, but then he came back to me saying he couldn't do it within 24 hours. And then he sent me a photo showing that he did it on April 21st. So that's like with it for the 24-hour period when like you guys could have like made it a lower violation or something. It's was a sticker from his campaign on a light pole, which again is like against like state law and stuff. But yeah, it's another clear thing, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Anything else you guys want to add? No? Okay, perfect. We will also,
He did take it down.
yeah, okay, we have a question.
He did take it down.
You took it down after 24 hours.
24 hour window.
Yes.
Any more questions from the committee? Okay, sounds good. We will move on from that complaint. Okay, we're 8 complaints in. Awesome. Okay, we are going to complaint number 9. So that will be 4/21/2025, Floyd versus Dagmawi Tashome. We have Floyd or Dagmawi here. Okay, since we will not be hearing complaints if the complainant isn't here, so that one will be dismissed. Okay, complaint number 10, 4/23/25, Jacob Martin versus Lydia Berhanu. We have Jacob Martin here. Okay, we will also not be hearing that complaint. Okay, we will be moving on. Yes.
Jacob.
Oh, is Jacob online?
There is a Jacob on Zoom. I don't know if Jacob.
One second.
Sorry guys, pause for technical difficulties.
Oh, there you go.
I see a Jacob. I don't know if it's
You want to ask? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to promote him.
Yeah. Okay, Jacob, are you Jacob Martin? Oh, okay, did you promote him? You can also put in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, ask him this message.
Oh, this is Jacob. Do you want to ask? Oh, that's my transcript.
They can't type in the chat. No.
Can you let us know if you're Jacob Martin ASAP, please?
Nah.
Okay.
Is that a yes or no? I couldn't tell. No, okay. We will not be hearing that one. Okay, going back to, okay, sorry guys. Okay, everyone, let's be quiet. Complaint number 11, 4/24/25, Henry Hess versus Nandana Jaydeep, Sonal Virk, Kate Lawson, Owen Rivera, Ashwin Anand, Valeria Perez. Also, oh, you're here now. Okay, perfect. Thought you were not quit too. Okay, if you guys could all come up, please, be awesome. Okay, you guys can just, wants to sit, can sit. The rest of you will unfortunately have to stand. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna start with roll call. Do we have Henry here?
Here.
Nandana Jaydeep? Here. Sonal Virk? Here. Kate Lawson? Here. Owen Rivera? Not here. Ashwin Anand?
Here.
Valeria Perez. Okay. We're gonna have the complainant start with their opening statement.
Okay, on the 22nd of April at around 7:50 p.m., I witnessed promotional material for the ticket Huskies Unbound with the candidates Nandana Jaydeep, Sonal Virk, Owen Rivera, Kate Lawson, Ashwin Anand, Valeria Perez Lopez, Jessica Fan, and Adriana Scott being placed on a table outside Madrona Hall at the entrance to Frostbite. This promotional material had a QR code linked directly to the EAC voting page with the slogan, quote, running for your 2025-2026 A-Share Board of Directors. These same materials were being passed out earlier by candidate Kate Lawson in front of Denny on the adjacent side of Denny Field at the table outside Madrona Hall. The complaint stems from what was being given out on said table outside of Madrona Hall. Those at the table were giving out free Yi Feng boba drinks, which those tabling claimed cost, quote, $10 or more. In addition to this boba, those tabling were also giving out a free month of Dash Pass, an optional subscription program for the popular delivery service DoorDash, which costs $9.99 per month according to the website. The cost of these free items added based on the regular and purported amounts cost $19.99, far exceeding the 100-cent limit placed by the EAC and falling under the category of, quote, severe violation. Campaigning is defined as, quote, distributing flyers or other printed materials to promote or oppose a ballot measure candidate in the EPP. The placement of such promotional material mentioned above falls under this definition. In addition, it is the intention of my complaint to provide sufficient evidence that the actions described above constitute, quote, directly or indirectly offering any bribe, reward, or anything of a fair market value greater than $1 to a voter in an attempt to change or persuade any student's voting decision. The placement of such flyers on the table distributing a free subscription valued at $9.99 and a free drink proclaimed to be worth, quote, $10 or more, is an indirect offering of, quote, anything of a fair market value greater than $1 in an attempt to change or persuade any student's vote. As the image provided shows, there's a QR code for the subscription, there are assorted boba offered, and the promotional material on the table. While a rebuttal may be that the candidates did not put the material on the table themselves, the question would be, why would those tabling put the material on the table of their own fruition? The table was meant to advertise the DoorDash subscription. Why would they unexpectedly be advertising for an ACW ticket? To me, the logical conclusion is that there would be no way for the material to get on the table like that without a candidate placing them there with a specific intention of utilizing the product being purveyed, especially as one of the candidates was tabling on the adjacent walkway in front of any room. It is my hope that the Judicial Committee sees the specific egregiousness of this violation, as many students were exposed to this violation due to the location of the table in a main transit area and the allure of the items offered. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an opening statement from the respondents? Let's go first.
Hi, so thank you for your complaint and thank you for hearing us today. I was tabling outside of Denny Field during the time that this complaint was allegedly filed. We were passing out flyers to everybody that walked by, including, I assume, the people that set up this table. We handed out flyers to a variety of different people. We do not know where they went with those flyers. We do not know what they did with those flyers. Our intention was to provide the voting link and our names to as many people as possible, which is well within our rights as candidates to campaign for ourselves. I am not sure why it ended up on this table. I assume that I handed the flyer to someone who then walked over and was either a participant in this table or walked by the table somehow. Never was it promised that any of these materials would be given in exchange for voting. Never was it promised that any of these materials had anything to do with voting. And I personally, as the person tabling and passing out these flyers, had no intention for them to end up on this table. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Now we'll be going back to the complainant. Do you have any additional evidence or does you want to present right now? We'll do closing.
No, I do not have any additional witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any additional evidence or witnesses you want to provide?
I was also tabling with Kate during this time. I would like.
Sorry, can you state your name?
Oh, my name is Jessica. So also, my name isn't on this violation on your guys' sheet. However, I did receive this violation in my email.
Oh, okay.
Just letting that out there. Yeah, so I was tabling with Kate during this time, and I'm pretty sure that the guy who was running that table, who was just a couple feet down from us, was genuinely curious about what we were doing because we were tabling at the same time as him. He handed him a flyer. It's one singular flyer. I think he took another one for his colleague. It was not meant to be passed out in relation to the free boba, so that's my position on it.
Yeah, thank you. And then do we have a closing statement from our complainant?
Yes. As two of the witnesses said, they did admit guilt in passing out this flyer to the person running this table. It is their due diligence, their job, it should be their intention and their observation.
Yeah. We have to. We have to go. Okay, guys. Okay, due to an emergency situation, we will be recessing until this alarm shuts off. See you guys as soon as this is off.
All right, please exit. Please exit in an orderly fashion.
It sounds like our technical difficulties are resolved. Anything else, Zoom guys? Okay, perfect. I call this meeting back to order at 6:54 p.m. on Wednesday, April 30th. So I'm just gonna go back into roll call for this complaint to make sure that everyone is here, and then we will be going into committee questions, and then we will be doing closing statements again. Because I know like that does not count. So I have to find it. Okay, do we have Henry here? Okay, and then just in case someone didn't hear that, please make sure to speak into the mic a little bit more. Okay, Henry, and then do we have Nandana Jaydeep, Donal Verk? Here. Kate Lawson, Owen Rivera, not here. Ashwin Anand.
Here.
Oh, no. Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, we can get that one figured out. And then, okay, Ashwin Anand here, Valeria Perez Leva. Okay, perfect. And so if the committee has any questions right now, because we didn't really get to that, let me know.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. First of all, for Henry, when you went up to the table, the one with the free boba, did they at any point mention the ticket to you, mention any candidates to you, mention the elections to you?
Yes, they did indicate a motion towards the flyer and said that we should look at it as we were filling out the QR code for DoorDash.
Did they did they just say like, look at this flyer? Did they explicitly mention the candidates? Did they mention the election?
Mentioned ASU dub, but not anything further.
And so there was absolutely no like quid pro quo suggested, no like, vote so we can
There
give you.
was no specific naming of candidates, but it was suggested that we should look at the information on the flyer.
Okay. And then for the respondents, real quick. So to be clear, at no point were you guys aware that this flyer had been placed on the table?
No.
And it was not your intent that the flyer would be placed on the table?
No.
No.
Okay. And did you at any point become aware that the flyer had been placed on the table?
No.
Until the complaint was filed, which was multiple days after this incident.
All right. That's very clear. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, so we already did additional evidence and witnesses, but because of the unique circumstances, I just want to ask again, do you have any additional evidence or witnesses?
No.
Okay, and then do the respondents have any additional evidence or witnesses? Okay, perfect. We will be going into closing statements now.
Okay, I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Henry Hess. I'm a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I am a second year, and I am the complainant. For my closing argument, it is on the candidates to do due diligence and do their work to know what the intention of those they are handing flyers to is. The people tabling were pulling a cart of boba with them as they walked in front and interacted with the candidates' tables, as well as the table meant to pass out said boba. The defense also lied. There is a second flyer at the top of the table, not just one. It is imperative that the Judicial Committee uphold their commitment to justice and accountability. It is extremely unrealistic to be unaware of the intentions of those tabling with the boba. Campaigning and gift giving can be both direct and indirect, as indicated in the EPP. I would like to restate that this is a severe violation. The punishment is a minimum of 8 hours and a maximum of 12 community service hours, as well as default disqualification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will not be doing judgments right now, just as a reminder, nor assigning penalties right now, but thank you for reminding us of that fact. We will now be hearing our closing statement from the respondents.
Hi everybody. My name is Ashwin Anand, who ran on the Ticket Huskies Unbound with my fellow people. Thank you all for being here. As a closing statement, just recapping what has already been mentioned, we handed one of the people that were tabling for the DoorDash with no official affiliation with DoorDash, no merchandising saying that they were a part of DoorDash, and we had handed flyers to not only him, but multiple people that were crossing across the Denny Field kind of area. Again, he walked by our table thinking that he was a student. He then, according to the photo taken, had placed the flyer on the table after reading it himself without any instruction or intention to promote our ticket through his table or any of his products. We did not instruct him to place that flyer, nor instruct anybody that there was a quid pro quo. Because again, we didn't even know that there was a quid pro quo in place because we thought he was a student. Again, it wasn't by our direction that the worker had placed the flyer on his table, nor any of the other people that had visited the DoorDash table, and there was no proposed reward of boba in turn for voting. Ultimately, again, we didn't know that he was DoorDash until the violation was, filed. Ultimately, the table ending up at the flyer was not at our discretion, nor did we want any quid pro quo to even be placed in intention. So again, not our intention entirely, but we understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone involved. I know that was an interesting situation with the fire alarm. Thank you for everyone for being accommodating. And we will be moving on from this complaint and we're moving on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will be moving on to complaint number 12 for 24-25. Sorry, that should be corrected. 424-25, Riley Selden versus Owen Rivera and Ashwin Anand. Do we have Riley Selden here? Okay, I'm gonna ask one last time just in case. Do we have Riley Selden here on Zoom? Do we have a Riley Selden? No? Do we? Okay. Um, okay, this complaint will be dismissed then because we will only be hearing complaints if the complainant is here. Okay. And then for complaint number 13, so this is 42725 Viana Dang versus Huskies Unbound entire ticket. We just want to say we don't recognize tickets as the Judicial Committee, or like you can't file a complaint against a ticket because that's not officially recognized. You have to put names. So we don't actually know who this is about. And also, do we have Viana in the room? Okay, I'm gonna ask one last time. Do we have Viana in the room? Okay, we will be dismissing this complaint, and we will be moving on to complaint number 14. So that will be 42725, Lainey Brittain versus Nandana Jaydeep and Ashwin Anand. Okay. Hello. So do we have Lainey here?
Here.
And then do we have Nandana Jaydeep here?
Here.
Ashwin Anand?
Here.
Okay, perfect. We will be first hearing opening statement from the complainant.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lainey Britton. I'm a third-year student here at the university studying environmental engineering. On April 22nd at around 1:13 p.m., Nandan and Ashwin approached my table while we were working on a group project in the ECE building's common spaces. They asked us if we had voted in the ASU Dub election. Initially, Ashwin had come up to talk to us. After members of my group said they had not voted, Ashwin explained that he was running as a part of the Huskies Unbound ticket. After this explanation, Nandana came up with a flyer that had a QR code to vote, as well as a flyer with the names of the members of their ticket. A group member asked her what her platform was, and she explained. She then told us something along the lines of, "I have the names right here for you to vote," as she was holding up the flyer. I believe Ashwin had left at this point. Nandana then stood at our table until my group members had finished voting. She left only after they confirmed that they had voted. I think Ashwin came back at this point and offered my group members a fidget toy in return for voting. I then witnessed Nandana and Ashwin go to other tables and do the same thing. I am not sure if they had permission to campaign in the ECE building, but this experience made me and my group members uncomfortable nonetheless. It was also very disruptive to our work. My group members agreed that they felt uneasy about the situation and said it felt as if the candidates were hovering over us until we finished voting. We felt pressured to vote for their ticket specifically. I looked into it and discovered that this is a campaign violation. This led to me filing a complaint. In section 6E9 of the election policies procedure, it is stated that no candidate, candidate's affiliate, ballot measures advocate, or ballot measures advocate affiliate may, in the course of campaigning, interfere with the academic instruction and mission of the university, including campaigning in university buildings without the permission of the building supervisor, or campaigning in a classroom without the permission of the instructor. I believe that Nandana and Ashwin should be held accountable for this direct violation. I also believe that ASU Dub should reassess their rules on campaigning in buildings so that it is not allowed under any circumstances. Disruptive to students. It also puts an uncomfortable pressure on students to vote for candidates who approach them without having ample time to review their platforms beforehand. Students are way more likely to feel pressure to vote if they have candidates hovering over them until they do so. I hope you consider this complaint seriously and that the defendants are held responsible. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you so much for that opening statement. We will now be letting the respondents make their opening statement.
Absolutely. Just to mention again, my name is Ashwin Anand. One thing I just want to mention before I forget, I definitely
Sorry. That was me. Sorry.
I definitely do agree with reforms to the EPP and more clarification on which buildings we are allowed to campaign in versus not. I definitely think that there is validity to the academic instruction part. one thing I do want to mention is that the area in which the ECE building we were campaigning in, and also outside, was the place where Microsoft Cafe exists. And so that's a public accessible area where people are grabbing food, people are grabbing drinks, and yes, there is a cafe there that we are, allowed to enter just to grab food. I think one thing about the pressure is that we always instruct anybody if they need more time to read over any of the, candidate platforms that are available on the ballot itself. So we don't try to place any pressure on anybody. We do just say that, in turn for voting in general, not even for us, for anybody, that you get a fidget toy. So there's no, type of incentive to vote just for us. Ultimately, the complaint lies with which building we were, campaigning in, and that is the ECE building. Not only were we talking to other people, we did get permission from like the Microsoft Cafe area. If we're allowed to approach different tables, and they said that's perfectly all right since it was a part of the AAC elections. And so under that discretion, we were going around table to table, just asking people if they had voted and, if they would be, encouraged to vote for us. Obviously, we are running on a ticket. We want to promote ourselves as fair as possible. But again, the biggest turnout in the past 5 years is what we've seen. And so, we're just trying to spread more awareness, and that's where that lies. Thank you.
Did you want to make one?
I just want to echo what Ashwin said too. Like, we did get permission and we were just promoting ourselves, which is well within our rights as candidates. And when we talked to people, we did not tell them that they had to vote for us in order to get fidget toys or candy. As long as they said like they voted or they planned to vote, we were handing out whatever materials we had to everyone equally. And in terms of like if anyone wanted to do more research or asked us about other candidates, we explicitly said that we can't speak for all of them, but there is a voter's guide available, and the link to the link to the QR code went directly to the EAC website, which has all the information of all the candidates, and it's not just like our platforms or just our candidates. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to add on.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're gonna first let the complainant, do you have any additional evidence or witnesses?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any additional evidence or witnesses?
No, we don't.
Okay, perfect. We're now gonna let the committee ask any questions they have. I know you have.
You guys mentioned you guys got permission from the building to go around and promote yourselves. Do you guys have any proof of this?
Yeah. At the current time, we didn't get anything in writing, but we did talk to the Microsoft Cafe employees who work the general area, and they said it's perfectly all right to go table to table to campaign, since it doesn't enter any of the more localized study spaces in the basement of the ECE building or on the second floor. And so since it's publicly accessible through windows, they said it's perfectly all right, and we did make sure to clarify that. So nothing in writing, but you'll have their approval.
Okay, thank you. I actually have, oh, sorry, Julia, you could go first.
On that, so you said you asked employees. Did you ask a manager or a building manager?
So at the current time, we did not, because we weren't able to find the building manager at the time. And so since Microsoft Cafe, I guess in that area, is again more publicly accessible, since most students are able to enter that, as compared to the lower buildings. Study spaces, for example, are reserved for engineering students, and so we made sure to be as publicly accessible as possible within the building. So even despite not finding the supervisor, we just check with like the local employees in the area that kind of have a little bit more jurisdiction and know about of the area.
Yeah, I have one more question. So in the complaint that we received, it said so it seems like the location that we received in the initial complaint was the ECE building study lounge. And so I was wondering, could you like tell me exactly like where that is? Because it sounds like we're hearing like different things. Like you said it's in the study lounge and we're hearing it's Microsoft Cafe.
Yes, I'm sorry, that is my bad. It
Okay.
That Microsoft Cafe area. I just assumed that was a study lounge. I am not like an EC student, so I don't go there a lot. I literally just met up with my group for that one project there. So
Yeah, no, you're totally good. I actually also don't necessarily know the difference between like the Microsoft Cafe, the study building. And so was this done? I know the Microsoft Cafe has like a separate door from like the rest of the building. And so this was this, you said it was outside and within the enclosed cafe.
Yeah, and so if you know where like the banner says Microsoft Cafe,
yeah,
that door right underneath it, so it's literally the most public area right at that intersection.
Okay, yeah. But it wasn't in the building that you have to like only like ECE majors
Yeah,
could
no
get
stairs
into.
crossed, literally right there. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, Lena, I had a couple questions for you. First of all, you mentioned that Nandana remained at the table until she saw that you'd voted. Was it something she like told you she was going to do, or was it something she just did and you guys were not clear when she was going to leave?
This is something that she just did. It felt to me as if she was essentially standing over us until my group members communicated that they finished voting, and we weren't asking any additional questions to them, like any clarification questions or anything like that. It was kind of just awkward silence. They said, "Oh, we finished voting," and then like she left after Oshman had come back to give us like the fidget toys.
Yeah, and then speaking of the fidget toy, you wouldn't happen to have it or have a description of it, would you?
No, I had already voted in the election at this point, so I did not receive the toy for voting. It's just something I observed like amongst my group mates, but they did receive it.
And again, you haven't any description of the object?
Yeah, so it was things, if you've ever seen like those slinky type of things that you push back and forth. I think there was like silly hands, like the ones you slap, even like fidget spinners, just things like that.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. Any further questions at this point?
Do you have any cost estimates on how much the fidget toys costed?
I bought them actually. They were on Amazon, and I believe it was $19 something cents for 120 pieces. So it was well within the range of campaign materials.
Okay, awesome. And then were these included in your campaign materials? Sorry, I'll have them up right now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any last questions? Okay, awesome. We will now be letting the complainant make their closing statement.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to Nandana and Ashwin for being receptive to my feedback and for understanding. I do disagree that the heart of the complaint lies in the building we were in. I think the heart of the complaint lies in the fact that they were disrupting academic processes and instruction at the university, despite the fact that the Microsoft Cafe might be a place that is separate from the EC building, although I'm also unclear of that, because to my knowledge, that is still an academic building on campus, and the Microsoft Cafe is located within the building, so they should still be held accountable for campaigning in academic buildings. They also did not have permission from the building coordinator. I have also reached out to the building coordinator for a statement and have not received one. But I'd like to speak to the fact that I believe the heart of the complaint lies in the fact that they were clearly disrupting academic processes by standing over us, essentially not leaving until my group members had stated that they finished voting. I would also like to add that I don't recall them telling my group that there was information about other candidates. I believe the conversation was only around Huskies Unbound.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll now be letting the respondents make their closing statement.
Absolutely. When we, I guess, break it down to like, building versus more of like the disruption area. I think the building, we both agree that there kind of needs a little bit more reform on the EPP to identify which areas. Again, as we mentioned before, the Microsoft Cafe is in the most publicly accessible area inside of that building, and the cafe's entire purpose, I guess, where it's located is for food, drinks, etc. And so, under common assumption, we entered that area thinking it was a public space. Again, on the disruption area of, telling them to vote for Huskies Unbound, etc. Obviously, we're running for a ticket. We will try our hardest to promote our campaign as fair as possible. But within almost every single time that we did campaign, we always mentioned that they can read up on their candidate profiles that are located at the very top of the ballot. And so there was fair and ample consideration for all candidates. Slight bias towards us, obviously, but we didn't want to place any pressure. We also instructed them, and by communication, they had instructed that they were voting at that current time. So we were going to stand there and hopefully guide them through the process. It is a fairly complicated process. So, we didn't want to place any pressure on them to vote. And if they had already voted, we'd moved on. And so we just wanted to be there to help if needed. And that's about it.
Yeah, I agree with Ashwin, and also in terms of like hovering, I was standing up while the rest of them were sitting down, so there wasn't a space for me to like sit down and get at the same level, so I wasn't like intentional hovering. And in terms of like waiting until like anyone finished, if someone said that they wanted to take their time or asked me to leave, I would have left. I was waiting for Ashwin to get back, so I was just not gonna like leave on my own until he got back, because we were campaigning together. And in terms of disrupting study spaces, like we were under the impression that the Microsoft Cafe is not a study space. It's like a dining hall slash cafe slash lounge. So we didn't go in with like the assumption that we would be interrupting any sort of like academic processes, if that makes sense. And yeah, none of our intention was not to like make anyone feel like they didn't have a choice. Like we didn't, and the reason like we didn't promote other candidates is because like it's not like our job to do that. And if we were ever asked to about other candidates, we always like redirected them to the voters guide.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. We're done with that complaint. Thank you so much, all of you. We will be moving on and we will be hearing complaint 15 now, which is named 42725 Peyton Sachs versus Autumn E. Okay, awesome. Quick roll call. Do we have complainant Peyton Sachs?
Yes, we do.
And do we have respondent Autumn E?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We will let the complainant make their opening statement first.
Is it okay if I just read my statement?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's kind of sectioned off, but I'm just gonna through. But this complaint addresses actions by RCSA Director of Government Affairs, Autumn Yee, that violated the EPP and HFS regulations during the 2025 ASUW elections, resulting in an unfair advantage for certain candidates. These are supported by references to the EPP, HFS policies, official communications, and I just seek a review from y'all. But on April 20th, 2025, a colored printer flyer, as I have present here, and I also submitted as on there's a photo of it as well, was slid under Sully Sylvester's dorm room door in Willow Hall. Evidence suggests this flyer was distributed across multiple residence halls, though the full scope of distribution is unclear. Notably, not all candidates reside in nor have access to these facilities, creating an uneven playing field. According to an April 16th, 2025 email from the Elections Administration Committee sent by Francisco, candidates are prohibited from campaigning in HFS dining halls or property without permission. Section 6B, subsection 1 of the EPP defines campaigning as including but not limited to distributing flyers or other printed materials to promote or oppose a ballot measure or a candidate. And then in an email from Autumn Yee, RCSA Director of Government Affairs, on April 22nd, 2025, further clarified that HFS policy stating, quote, door-to-door solicitation or distribution of promotional materials by anyone who is not a resident of a residence hall or by anyone for commercial or campaigning activities is prohibited, end quote. Critically, Yee emphasized that even residents may not distribute campaign materials within the hall, and violations confer to an quote undue advantage, end quote. Thus, the flyer's distribution, regardless of who distributed it, violates HFS policy. As RCSA Director of Government Affairs, Yee is expected to fully understand the EPP and HFS regulations. Her leadership role amplifies the severity of this violation as it undermines the integrity of the elections process. It is critical to note that Yee emailed all candidates on April 22nd, stating that solicitation and distribution of campaign materials in residence halls are strictly prohibited. Yet, as a directive, following her own distribution of materials with endorsed RCSA-backed candidates across multiple residence halls. This sequence of events reflects a breach of her authority and undermines the fairness and integrity of this election. By enforcing rules only after leveraging her position to benefit specific candidates, Yee misused her power in a manner inconsistent with the EPP and HFS policies. And then I also go into as an affiliate, so I'm going to just finish this complaint off. But as an affiliate, the EPP preamble mandates that candidates, ballot measure advocates, their affiliates, and ASUW entities comply with its rules. Section 1 of the EPP defines affiliate as any individual or group who is connected to or acts in support of a candidate or a ballot measure, end quote. By endorsing specific candidates, RCSA becomes an affiliate under the EPP, subjecting it to the same regulations as candidates. With that, there were some financial and in-kind violations also with this. So the EPP imposes strict campaign spending limits. There I have them listed. Y'all know them in the EPP, but no candidate could afford the scale of printing and distributing colored flyers across residence halls, especially because such distribution itself is prohibited. Additionally, the appearance of dubs, which was offered on the first page of if like the halls with the highest voting percentage will win a visit from dubs, is what it says. Dubs cost approximately $300 per hour. This constitutes a significant in-kind contribution. Even divided amongst residents, this benefit tied to RCSA endorsed candidates violates Section 7, subsection 8 of the EPP, which prohibits offering anything above $1 values to influence voters. I did send this as a complaint that when I became aware of this was April 20th. Election started on April 21st. I was made aware of this at 6 p.m. So I sent an email to RCSA, or not RCSA, to EAC, and they sent a email dismissing the complaint, arguing one, the flyers promoted and that they promoted the RCSA Hall Wars event, not candidates in particular, which all the candidates are on the flyer. Two, RCSA and RAs are not candidates nor campaign managers, placing them outside of EAC jurisdiction. Three, RCSA is not required to list all candidates, only the endorsed. And four, the flyer's QR code on the back right here leads to all candidate platforms without restriction. However, these arguments fail to address the real practical impact of this flyer. One, the flyer prominently features only RCSA endorsed candidates, misleading voters into believing that they are the only options because there's no direct any say that says more candidates. As affiliates, RCSA are subject to APP rules, contrary to the claim of being outside of EAC jurisdiction. Three, the vague QR code with the label "Read More" does not clarify that it directs to other candidates. And four, HFS policy, as confirmed by Yi, basically explicitly bans campaign material distribution in residence halls as a whole, regardless of RCSA's internal permissions or RA involvement. RCSA's unique access to residence halls, funding, and institutional presence provided endorsed candidates with advantages unavailable to others, and this violates the EPP's commitment to fair elections as stated in the preamble. The flyer's distribution and Dub's appearance leverage resources and access beyond the reach of non-endorsed candidates who are bound by spending limits and HFS and EPP restrictions. These actions skewed voter perceptions, undermining the trust in the electoral process. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that opening statement. Now we will be hearing the respondent's opening statement.
So in terms of the violation of HFS and EPP policies, I did have the EAC chairs look over the pamphlet that was handed out, and I also had them go over the appearance of Dubs as an incentive for voting. And they told me that the pamphlets was not considered a campaign material, so it didn't fall under those restrictions. With this permission, I asked HFS if they could distribute the pamphlets, and they did, which means they did give permission for the distribution of the pamphlets. Since HFS staff was in charge of distribution and handouts, I didn't give them any instructions about putting them under doors. They were told to put them in like study lounges. Since HFS staff was in charge of distribution, I don't believe that the distribution of pamphlets was in violation of HFS policy, as RCSA itself was not involved in the distribution of pamphlets via tabling. As for RCSA as an affiliate, I do not believe an endorsement of a candidate is considered becoming a campaign affiliate. And if Judicial decides it so, I think that needs to be clarified. So all RSOs who choose to endorse should make an informed decision that they'll be held accountable. Section 1 of the EPP states that the group has to be both connected to and act in support of a candidate. And while endorsements can be argued as acting in support of a candidate, RCSA is not connected to any candidate and cannot be considered an affiliate. Our endorsements are voted on both by the executive board and general council representatives, which there are 30. I don't know if that would mean that all general council representatives and the exec board would be considered affiliates, but I think we should be aware of that before we general council representatives are given the ability to vote.
Yeah, thank you so much for that opening statement. Now I'm going to turn it back over to our complainant. Peyton, do you have any additional evidence that you have not submitted to us? Or I know you said you had like a witness. Do you want to bring them up?
They unfortunately could not be here.
That's fine.
But this is kind of all, I have the material that was slid under their door. I don't have any direct other evidence, I don't believe. I believe I sent over the emails that were sent over. Did you gather those?
I don't.
Because there was only availability to submit one, like, or two, like, different material PDFs.
Yeah, I have both of the pictures. So I have like the front and
Okay.
back of the picture. Do we have, I don't think we have the email that you sent. You can always send that to us.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I can send that to you. And then also the email that we were all sent as candidates, I would also like to submit to y'all.
Yeah, just a clarification. We do have an email address, but that's not what you mean, do you? Like,
No,
you
I
mean, like,
also
the
submitted
copy.
a PDF with like, it was a copy of a email that I received.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think we
Oh,
have
man.
that PDF. We can.
PDFs are not on my side.
So. Oh, okay. Never mind. We could figure that out.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry, but
No,
if
you're
not,
so okay.
we'll let you know, and we
You're
can
okay,
hopefully
yeah.
get that from you. So no additional evidence or witnesses as of
Yeah,
right now.
other than that email that we were all sent as candidates, but I can forward that one. to you.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
And then, do we have any additional evidence or witnesses from our respondent?
I think Francisco could attest to approving of.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Francisco again.
So in contacting Autumn about this, because like she informed us about this and sent us a little copy of
The voter's guide, oh, like
the
like if you guys want to, sorry, but we had deliberations about this on Teams and in person because obviously we wanted to make sure that this was like done within the EPP and within like HFS solicitation rules. And Autumn informed us that they received permission from HFS to like distribute them. Then HFS did distribute them on their own leisure because I know that RCSA had their own plans for how to distribute them, like it just in the lobbies and stuff. But then HFS might have done that in front of just like might have slid them under some like halls or rooms because that happened in my room in McMahon. And we clarified that they can do this because if they were promoting the Hall Wars event between like all the halls, like the Hall Wars event, but not necessarily like promoting the candidates and stuff like that. But that was our clarification for them. How that it was mainly for the Hall Wars event, not promotion of the candidates.
Okay. Anything else from our respondent? Okay. We're gonna go to questions now from the committee, and I actually have one right now. For Autumn, why did you guys choose to put the endorsements on that flyer as well, and not just promote like the Hall Wars?
We received a lot of questions about who to vote for, and we just thought it would be easier because we also put it on our website, that people would be just directed to that because that was like a very asked question for us.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the committee?
Yeah, first of all, to Autumn, the process for endorsements, like that was something any candidate could earn, right? And then was it clear to them that RCSA and HFS would essentially promote for them if they won the endorsement?
No, because we hadn't decided on that at the time.
Okay. I also want to clarify, was anything about the appearance of dubs related to candidates? Were candidates at all involved in anything regarding dubs?
No.
And then who ultimately paid for the printing and for the dubs appearance? Is that RCSA or is that HFS? Is there any meaningful distinction?
I would say RCSA.
So RCSA did front the cost for all of this promotion.
Yes, but it's kind of complicated. I would say it's more of a combination.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I got.
Does anyone else have any questions? Christina, do you have a question?
The email and the second photo that Peyton was talking about, I uploaded into the folder.
You have it now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we have that now, but if we don't, I'll contact you later. Okay, perfect. I don't think we have any more questions, so now we will allow the complainant to make their closing statement.
Yeah, so I have a little statement and then a little something to add. But the distribution of campaign flyers in residence halls constitutes a clear violation of HFS policy and EPP regulations. As an affiliate of endorsed candidates, RCSA is subject to the EPP rules and actions. Distributing prohibited materials and guiding in-kind benefits breach both the letter and spirit of these policies. These violations granted an undue advantage to specific candidates, compromising the fairness of the ASUW elections, and such violations erode student trust in ASUW elections and necessitate immediate corrective action. I urge y'all to just investigate and restore ASUW electoral integrity. With that being said, I also do want to mention, it doesn't say the hall event. The first part of the pamphlet says RCSA Guide to Elections, so that is a clear voter pamphlet. If it was to just promote the Hall Wars, it would take up most of the page. The two main pages of the pamphlet are two different endorsement statements. So this is not, and it also has a clear 1, 2, 3, 4-step guide on how to vote. There is no evidence that says read more on candidates or read more about the elections or learn more about Hall Wars events on the back. It says read more, which insinuates it's about reading more on the candidates. Again, I want to mention that the part that I mentioned about dubs is not on the candidates themselves, as I know that they didn't pay for that, but as an affiliate of the candidate. RAs also, when they become RAs, do know our HFS policies. They know that door-to-door solicitation is not allowed. And as the director of governmental affairs, there should have been a implementation policy. If this was going to be directed, it should have not been up to the discretion of HFS to say go all willy-nilly if they didn't want their RAs violating their own policies, which they didn't violate it, and that's why I didn't submit it against the RAs. It is on the jurisdiction of the Director of Governmental Affairs to know these rules and to make sure that there are clear implementation plans, so this doesn't happen, as they do know the rules and that they know not only HFS policy, but the EPP. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now we will be hearing the respondent's closing statement.
I would say that everything RCSA has done is within EPP policy as it stands. We checked with all relevant policymakers to make sure it was correct and promoted the Hall Wars as a flyer in addition to the pamphlets, which meant we were promoting it aside from the endorsements. I don't see how like the RAs doing this. They're allowed to put things under doors as part of their jobs. I thought that HFS would be able to make sure that their RAs would be in like conjunction with their policy. So I don't see how RCSA is at fault for what HFS is doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you both of you for all of that. We will now be moving on to the next complaint.
Thank you.
And also before we move on to the next complaint, I want to say I know earlier that I said we would be taking breaks at every hour, but then we had the fire alarm and we just started. So I was thinking we could hear one more complaint and then we could take a quick 5-minute break for bathroom, snacks, whatever. Okay, so moving on to complaint number 16. This is 42725 Ria Dereja versus Alice Zobarovsky, Peyton Sachs, Lydia Berhanu, Brandon Palin, Moti Galato, Grace Clark, Simon Thompson, and Nebia Marcos. Okay, awesome. I will do roll call of all those names once again. Do we have Ria here? Okay, sorry. Do we have Alice here?
Yes, ma'am.
Peyton? Yeah. Lydia? Here. Brandon? Here. Moti? Here. Grace, I know is not here. Simon?
Here.
And Nebia? Here. Okay, awesome. We will first let the complainant make their opening statement.
So much, Aditi. So I think on April 21st, 12 or 1 p.m., Frisco found this in the RSO Center. It was just
Yeah, I can speak on that.
Hi, this is Francisco. Again, like as we said, I at the RSO Center printing stuff for the EAC. Then I found this near the printer that RSOs use to print their own materials, and then I just realized, oh, what's that doing there? And like since it's the hub, they can't be campaigning, and I was I wasn't fully sure that campaigns could use the RSO Center because I know that was something that we couldn't do last year when campaigning, or at least not use the materials there. But that's why we sent it to the complaint, because you can't have campaign materials in the hub, and it was in RSO Center. So.
Okay, awesome. Now we will be hearing the respondent's opening statement.
Hi. So, the fact that those were left there, while I did not mean for it to happen, was my fault and no one else on the ticket that I was affiliated with the Wave. Basically, what happened was on April 19th, the Saturday before voting opened, I went to the RSO Resource Center to print out those papers, which I also checked with the EPP to make sure. I know we can't campaign in the hub, but nothing in the EPP outlined that we could not create campaign materials privately in the hub. And so I decided, I used my discretion to go on a Saturday when the RSO Resource Center was open, because I assumed that not as many students would be there, so that less people would potentially see the materials. What happened when I was printing is that so I was using the main printer. There are 3 printers in the RSO Resource Center. 2 of them are for large posters, and then 1 of them is just for regular paper. As I was sending these printing requests to the printer, another student was sending printing requests to the printer, but to use the bypass tray to print on cardboard paper. We were sending in these requests at the same time. So what the person who was at the front desk at the RSO Resource Center, what she said that happened is that, I quote, the printer got confused and it printed out these cardboard papers with name tags for this other event. And I was like, hey, I just printed something on normal paper. did you see it come out? And then I asked the girl who was printing the name tags, hey, did you by chance mistakenly pick up my papers? She said no. So I asked the RSO Resource Center worker, I said, hey, I just printed something. I don't think it came out. Should I just reprint it? And she said, yeah, just go ahead and reprint it. So I reprinted it. And in my time in the RSO Resource Center, both printing and making buttons, I did not see that stack that I initially printed be printed. I don't know how printers work, honestly. I wish I did because I swear they smell fear. But what I believe happened is that because, like I said, the printer got confused because it was trying to print from the bypass tray with the cardboard paper and the regular tray with the regular paper, is that those just printed later. So I ensure you that my intent was not to campaign, especially not in the hub. I work in the hub. If I wanted to campaign in the hub, I would have, which I didn't because my office is there. So yeah, I promise this was a mistake and a technological error.
Yeah, you can make a statement.
I also wanted to add that Alice did not use her ASU dub code when printing these things. I believe, I believe she used her sorority code, right? Yeah.
The Z Delta.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that. And I also wanted to add that the papers were left in the printer, like Francisco stated, and they weren't used by our ticket in any means to campaign at all because we didn't even have the papers. But yeah, I just wanted to add that she didn't use her ASU dub code for that.
Yeah, thank you. Do the complainants have any additional evidence or witnesses?
I don't know if that would count as evidence, but I'm just looking at the financial disclosure form, and Alice did mention to me that they didn't have the receipts from the RSO Center, and they mentioned the UW printing services. So my only question is, was the cost of that also included in the UW printing services cost?
Yeah, the printing services cost and the button making cost should have been two separate things that I put on my financial form.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then do we have any additional evidence or witnesses from the respondents? Okay, yeah.
Hi, my name is Nebia. I believe on the second day of elections, so April 22nd, I went into the RSO Resource Center. The witness isn't here, but I went into the RSO Resource Center to utilize the big paper cutters that they have because they're just a lot more efficient than scissors. And yeah, I was cutting out some mini slips that I was going to use for, obviously just for campaigning, not in the hub. This was a time when we were tabling like adjacent to the quad, and we were running out of paper, so I went to the hub to cut up some more because I already had them printed out. And yeah, so when I was doing so, I think that this was directly after, like the day after, a couple days after Alice's violation like came to light, and so the hub RSO Resource Center, like the main admin, who is this older man, I'm not sure of his name, but he's always in there. I'm sure everybody here, okay, tell me. Yeah, he's always in there, and yeah, he came up to me because, and I think he knew like I was running in the election, and he was just saying like, hey, like those weren't printed here. I mean, those weren't printed with your BSC or ASU dub code, right? Because I work in the Black Student Commission office, and I was like, no, I didn't print these here at all. I was just utilizing the paper cutters here, and I was like, that's okay, right? And he was like, yeah, we just recently had a little mix up with that, but cutting the papers here, them being here like mistakenly is completely fine, and I'm sure that he would also confirm this.
Oh, okay, thank you. Now we're gonna be letting the complainant make their closing statement.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Wait, I'm so sorry. We're gonna do questions really quick.
Hi guys, first to the complainant, so I want to clarify, is the issue you're trying to bring with this complaint the fact that something was printed or the fact that they were left behind?
That's the thing. I checked there's like two parts to that. I checked the RSO Center and I contacted Tony and the people that work there. There's no way to verify that, but I take their word for it that they didn't use their ASU print code for that. Second is that it was left in the RSO Center, which technically is hub property, so that's what the violation is. We have no way to figure out that this was used by the ASU thingy, so yeah.
Okay, and then I did have one question for the respondents. I also don't understand how printers work. What was the thinking behind using the hub printer as opposed to like the printers in Ode?
So yeah, Alice had mentioned that she did this the Saturday before election had opened, so that's like the 19th or something like that, and she just went to Ode because you live close. I mean, she just went to the hub because you just live closer to the hub than any part of campus. I'm assuming, right? Yeah, and she's had experience using the RSO Resource Center stuff before, just because of her capacity in different things. So I believe that's why she did that, and that's what she said to us too. So.
I was gonna make buttons right after in the button making machine in the so just logically in my head, I was like, oh, I'm gonna print and then make buttons. Yeah. So
And then one more question, respondents. Did anyone other than Alice know she was going to do this?
Yeah, we knew that Alice was having a craft day on Saturday, and it was up to her what she wanted to do that day, whether it was making bracelets or whatever. And then she had texted us after she had made the button saying oh, look at all the buttons. So we're like, oh, period, Alice. But we weren't Alice, go to the hub, and yeah, so it was just like that.
Yeah, just to be clear, none of you guys knew she was going to use the hub specifically prior to printing.
No, we just knew she was gonna do crafts.
just to be transparent, Grace Clark was with me because she was on campus and we have each other's locations. And I was like, hey, I'm on campus in the hub making buttons if you want to come. So she pulled up and she helped me cut them. So Grace Clark was there. Yeah.
Like to add. Yeah. I also knew that they were going to be in the hub only because Alice was asking me for my experience making buttons in the hub that I've done for my ASU Dub position all the time for promotional materials. And I was helping her out with accessing the templates and how you go about making them. And yeah, those are just it's standard procedure. I'd also like to add that when you print something out at the hub, it comes out upside down, so nobody would see it unless they were like, oh, somebody left this here, and I would assume they would just throw it away. But just to clarify that it was upside down and blank, it's a one-sided document, so it's not like it was just facing our logo out to everyone. And I also would like to add, as somebody who's been in RSOs, had multiple different print codes, access to multiple different print codes, it's very often that students will utilize an RSO or a sorority print code just because it's easier transaction wise, and who wants to pay for something when your RSO could do it for you. So.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, and then for either or, were these removed within 24 hours from the RSO center, either with you guys figuring it out or after printing them?
I want to say 24 working hours because the next day was Sunday and the RSO Resource Center is closed on Sunday. But then on Monday around noon is when Rhea found out about these and then brought them over to us where we were tabling.
Yeah, she brought them over to our table where we're campaigning on Monday and informed us oh, this was in the printer. And Alice wasn't at the table at the time. I believe I and someone else was at the table, and I had no idea. I don't know if you could tell by my reaction, Rhea, but I had no idea they were there. And we just were like, oh, we're so sorry, it won't happen again. But that's the interaction.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now we're gonna do closing statements. Yes. If you guys want to make your closing statement.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that this was not about EAC print code, not AAC Dub print codes. We didn't believe that you guys did that. Just want to clarify that first off. Second, I found these faced up. I guess the person who printed them out found them or something and then just placed them down somewhere just near the printer. So I found them looking up.
So that's why I was concerned about that.
But yeah, and then we just
Removed them once
we saw because
obviously that was our concern. So
Again, I don't think that they use their different code, but that's the concern that I have, not just with just anyone, and something that I would recommend for next year's EPP to not use center just for printing, they can use it for everything else because there's no way to verify if they use their ASU Dub thingy or their RSO. So that's just something there. And yeah, Alice told me that it was her, I don't know if Grace was mentioned in our conversation, but she said she takes responsibility for that, which I really appreciate. But yeah, we had to file the complaint against everyone because their names were on there and just on the basis of who took responsibility. But I do think that the intent was not there. They just really, it was a mistake. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Closing statement from our respondents.
Just yeah, it was a mistake on our end, and we apologize for the oversight and just that. That's it. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, thank you.
I do want to say really quickly that campaigning, as defined as Section 6 of the EPP, it states that campaigning includes, but is not limited to, the following activities when such activities are undertaken by a candidate's affiliate, a campaign manager, a ballot measure activist, or a ballot measure activist affiliates. And that includes distributing flyers or other printed materials,
to promote or oppose a ballot measure or candidate. I think that we can all confirm that this was done by accident. There was no distribution of any flyers. It was left. And if you look at the paper over there, it is not a very efficient form of campaigning. It is just a bunch of circles that say a ticket name. And I also want to include that the EPP does not specifically say that we cannot use the printer within the ASU dub. It only says that no candidate's affiliate, ballot measures activist, or a ballot measure advocates affiliate may, in the course of campaigning, campaign in the ASU dub or GPSS offices or within the hub. So I do want to highlight that this was not done with the intention of distributing flyers, therefore it was not campaigning, and therefore it would not be in violation of the EPP.
Yeah, thank you. Any other closing statements?
I just wanted to quickly apologize to the other members who are affiliated with the same ticket that I was affiliated on. I did not mean to bring you guys under the bus on this. This was completely my fault, and I take full accountability. If there is going to be a penalty, please multiply by 8 and only give it to me, not my campaign members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I just got to know that the resource center is funded with SAP fees. So it cannot be used for any campaign materials at all. I don't know. That's not mentioned in PP. So I don't know what you can do with that information. Second, Simon did bring that up to this point, like what is defined by campaigning. And it could be placing signs, posters, sandwich boards, or lawn signs with the intent to promote or oppose a ballot measure or candidate. It could be taken as placing a poster, even though they didn't stick it. It's there, even though they didn't intend to distribute. I know that that's not their intent. It was a mistake, but it could be considered campaigning since people could see it and they could see their names. So I think that is campaigning based on EPP standards.
Okay, thank you. We'll count that as your rebuttal. So we're done with this complaint. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we will now be taking a 5-minute break. So I move to recess for 5 minutes and we will all return by, I'll give us a few extra seconds. We will all return by 7:51. Thank you. In there.